Hey, what's up? This is Mark at alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir and Phoenix by building things. Today we're going to dig a bit further into Tailwind CSS on Phoenix. If you don't have that set up yet, check my last video called How to Set Up Tailwind CSS on Phoenix. We've got an app running with Tailwind set up, and what we're going to do is we're going to answer a subscriber question, which was how do we set up, or how do we add base styles using CSS like in the Tailwind doc examples. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to configure VS Code so it's a bit nicer to work with. To answer this question, it's very straightforward. We can literally just copy exactly this into our app CSS and it'll work fine. Note that I've added a fancy H2 to the template from last time, and it's got a link in it. So this apply text blue 600 underline to links will happen in the H2, and the sizes will change a little bit. So that worked fine. Why did I set it up this way last time? Well, that's because we're using PostCSS Import, and I want to be able to extract these things into their own file and import them. One thing that PostCSS Import requires, and is actually something you should do to have valid CSS anyways, is that all the imports in the file have to be at the top. So if we were to do an import here or after our components, then we'd run into a problem where we had an import, but above that import we'd have a Tailwind directive, which we can't do because imports have to be at the very top. So let's just go over this step by step and you'll see what is happening exactly. First, let's change this H2 to make it only apply to H2 fancy, like the one that I created. And let's give it a few more rules. Text, it's going to be triple XL, and then text teal 6 or text teal 300. And we'll also give it some margin. All right, but what if we wanted to extract this into its own file? Well, we could do import just headers.css and create a new file here called headers.css. Put this directive in there, and you'll see we're getting, actually you'll see some errors that are due to VS Code, but we're also losing our styles. See, this is not styled anymore at all, and we're getting a warning that import must precede all other statements besides char set. So problem here is the import is not at the top, but we actually have to have this happen after the Tailwind base. So we can go back to the way that I had it set up initially and just add this import into the middle of it. So we'll do that, just go back in time here, and instead of all of this, we'll just uncomment my initial setup, and we'll put our import after the components actually. So do that, and now our import should work again. So that's why we did it that way. Before we go on to the button component, let's set up VS Code to be a little bit nicer with Tailwind. So I'm just going to search Tailwind, and the top thing is Tailwind CSS Intellisense. This thing is great because once this is set up, then we can actually autocomplete any Tailwind that we're typing in. So going back to our headers CSS, if I were to start retyping this text, now you can see we're getting autocomplete of all the options. I can hover it, I can see exactly what it means. It's font size 1.875 rem, and that's definitely an improvement. We've still got some squigglies though. This says semicolon expected. The problem here is this is Tailwind. This isn't just standard CSS. We can go to our preferences in VS Code and user settings. There we go. And search for CSS Validate. And notice that I've already tried adding some valid properties, apply, Tailwind. Doesn't solve the problem. What we do instead is just uncheck this. So now VS Code is no longer validating CSS at all. Then we'll get our own linter, which will work properly with Tailwind. We'll get style lint. So style lint, and there are a lot of options. This is one we want. Install that. And once we've enabled style lint, we also need to set a config file at the base of our project so that it knows what the rules are for Tailwind. That's called stylelint.config.js. It's a little bit weird. We've got a .js file at the top of our project instead of in the assets, but here's where it goes. And here's the config we'll give it. Module.export rules. And the rules are going to be at rule unknown. So we're just going to not cause any sort of errors on certain things, and true, and ignore all rules. Tailwind, so that we ignore those at Tailwind directives. Apply, same reason. Basically, we're going to want to ignore everything that Tailwind uses as its own directives. And responsive is one, and then screen. There may be a few others, but these are the ones I know of. If we hit an error anywhere else, we know what file to add it to. Save this, and now when we go back to our headers CSS, there are no errors. Now let's create one for buttons. So import buttons.css, and in our new file, we'll make a style for small buttons in general. So btn-small, and in here we'll apply the following Tailwind styles. So you should start seeing some autocomplete as I go through this. First thing is w-40. We can see that's a width of 10 rem, which is going to be wide enough for a small button. Then we'll add some vertical padding. We can see that is a padding. Actually, I guess we didn't see the hover. We'll add some horizontal padding. I believe if we type to 4, then we see it come up over here. So see exactly how much padding we're getting on our button. Then rounded, that'll be it for button small. And then we'll make some styles for a yellow button. So btn yellow, and we'll apply bg-yellow 300 and text black, and then font bold. Save that, and we can see the button is already starting to get styled. Now we probably also want to have a hover attribute, so let's see, we'll just make it a little bit brighter if it's hovered. So background yellow 400 on a hover, and that's all we really need for hover. So now we have our nice little clickable button, and it's not really that hard. If we want to get another button, we can just copy that down and change it to say blue. And for blue button, we'll have text white, but we'll have blue 400 and 600 instead. Save that, and we'll change this this button style here to button blue. And now we have a nice blue button. So that's the basic way I would set everything up. And if you wanted to do some applies in your main app here, like, I don't know, like body apply something or another, then, you know, you could just do that like so, and then copy this over, so we're getting a Tailwind directive instead of import. So as long as all the imports are at the top, you're good. That's it for today. See you next time.